Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome back to From the Depths Most Wanted, where we're looking at a white flare craft. It's been a while since we've looked at one of these because they are oh so delightfully annoying. I miss them, except not really. I miss talking about them. So today, the vehicle we're looking at is the Scourge, which is a godly class white flare craft that is, well, like 250,000 material cost isn't exactly tiny, but it's surprisingly small. So when it's in the same class as things like the Purifier and the Redeemer, Retaliator, Perforator and stuff like that, you've got to think, okay, so what makes this thing godly? Well, a lot of things. This is a small, compact little nightmare of a craft, and it is a missile cruiser in disguise. So, I feel a spiritual connection with this thing because I keep making craft which are not supposed to be missile cruisers, and then missiles do all the work on them, so there you go. Okay, so what are this thing's strengths? How are you likely to run into this? Well, I guess one strength is if you're on higher difficulties, like because this thing is so much cheaper than a lot of other godly class white flare craft, the AI is more likely to spam them. Can't speak from personal experience with that, but 250k is it's almost 1/5 the cost of a Redeemer. It is like half the cost of a Retaliator or a Perforator. I think even some larger craft floating around there. Yeah, like over here in the medium section, the Slasher is like not even twice the cost of that, and that's a medium craft. So yeah, this thing is actually on the cheap side if we're talking godly craft. So you're likely to see, if you're going to see one, you're likely to see more than one. And I mentioned it's a missile cruiser in disguise. Well, it's got these AP turrets. We're going to get to them in a second, but it has a lot of missiles on it. They're not incredibly good missiles, so these ones are infrared, EMP frag, one turn, nothing amazing, means that they tend to go for your fast jets, and then these ones are just frag spamming radar seekers, and there are a lot of them. So let's see how many missiles. There's so many missiles. I think these are the ones in front. Yeah, 14 of them. These are the ones behind. Yep. 32, 14 plus 30, 46 missile volley in something that is just over 100 meters long. Nothing to be sneezed at. And then it's got two AP guns right here. So these are 36 millimeters, so you might think, hang on, that's not that big and scary. Why should I be scared? Why should I be scared? Well, you should be scared because they're sabot rounds, so... or sabot, like no one agrees on how to pronounce this. But yeah, so it is a sabot spamming monster, so where is the... its expected armor piercing is about 63.5, which means that this thing doesn't care if it's shooting at heavy armor or not, it will get through it eventually if you let it. And the visible tracer means that it's very accurate as well. So even without the tracer, you can look at the barrel. Inaccuracy is 0.18, which makes it weird that the required accuracy before fire is 2 degrees. I think that must have been just an oversight. Who made this? Jang made this. Jang. You might want to update that. Or not. I don't know. I don't know what your plan is, Jang. But yeah, so these guns fire very, very quickly. They essentially spurt out a river of blood droplets, which I guess is the effect you're going with. Very white flare. And yeah, the rate of fire is 2,237.5 rounds per minute, which is slightly ridiculous, actually. It's not even their potential full rate of fire. They're limited to that by their cooling. They could fire even faster. So yeah, they fire a lot. And over here, we see the other thing that makes this thing a bit of a pain to deal with, is that if you want to spam AP back at it, you've got a problem, because this thing has max strength shields. So I keep forgetting that shields are a thing and exist. So strength 10 shields, the maximum reflect chance is 40%, mini percent, so but minimum chance is 20% of reflecting anything coming at it, so it means that 1 in 5 of your shots are going to bounce off this thing, which is annoying. And laser AP is reduced to 30%, so this craft actually, let's actually check the full shield coverage, because I haven't actually done that. I've been a silly person. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There we go. Let's go shield color settings, and apply to all. Okay, it doesn't have full shield coverage, but from the front and on the sides, it has it. So in the most critical areas, it does have shield coverage, which means that from certain angles, you're not going to really have any luck shooting at this thing with lasers or anything that doesn't really spam the ducker. So let's go here and just do that and apply color to all so we can see again. And while we were in there, you probably also noticed that this thing is filled with surge protectors, and this thing is not easy to kill with EMP. So if you say, aha, I'm going to spam EMP to kill the shield, so then I can laser or poke this thing to death with pointy shells, that's not a super good idea because it is stuffed full of them. So all this, there, here, there, and everywhere, it's just filled with surge protectors. EMP doesn't work particularly well against it. And this thing is fast, so its max speed is 31 meters per second. It doesn't always go that fast. But let's see if we can manage it here. I think it slows down when it turns a fair amount. Yeah, not quite managing it. Not quite managing it. It's worth mentioning that we are in alpha test, and the way rudders work is a little different. So it's got a bunch of simple rudders, and these things don't stack anymore, so this thing might have dropped in speed a little bit. Just a little bit. Although it does have... Where is... Oh wait, no, it's got hazard pods as well. That helps. So yeah, this thing is fast. It also has it has... Where is it? Where is it? My notes have told me something, and I need to investigate it. Aha, back here. It has a sonar target simulator, so trying to zap this thing with torpedoes is a little bit harder than it might appear at first glance, because these are actually very strong. Max sonar strength is 12,800. Let's just see. Visually, what's our sonar detection range? Unless you're shooting at it from the bottom, the torps aren't going to detect it by the looks of it. Let's go here. So from the sides, yeah, from the sides, the torps aren't really going to see it. They're going to prioritize their decoy. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And let's show you how fast this thing melts things. So let's go. What's a small thing? What's a small thing? Anvil is a reasonably small thing. So there you see that absolute river of Sabo just flying around, and just torrent of missiles. It's this is very much, it's a bit almost a glass cannon, really, is because it's not really big enough to be super durable, but it's just if you take your eye off the this thing for more than a few moments, well, you can just see the block confetti that happens. It's just poking holes in this bit by bit, bit by bit. And because Sabo rounds tend to lack kinetic damage, they're not likely to overpen, which weirdly enough makes them kind of efficient. Let's see, what's happening there? Nothing much, it keeps missing. Let's see, let's have a look at the circular distance. This thing actually, well, it keeps a kind of, oh yeah, it wiggles around a lot. Minimum approach angle is 55 degrees. Combat distance 1,000 meters, so yeah, this thing is wiggling back and forth a lot, which means it's actually dodging crams reasonably well. So yeah, this is the kind of godly craft which is like, if this shows up at the wrong time, you are in deep, deep doo-doo. So yeah, but enough about that. What are its weaknesses? Well, the first and perhaps most obvious one is that these guns... Whoops, I've made the guns vanish. That's not the idea. There we go. So you see in here, these are belt loaders, and they all have only one input on them. So when this runs out of rounds in the cannon, there's quite a lengthy reload process. So it is reloading here, but that absolute river of Dhaka, oh, you can see right there, it kind of starts just burping instead of just having an outright torrent. That is a weakness. If you manage to survive that initial burst, the damage output of this thing drops dramatically. And you probably already noticed that these missiles do not have signal processors on them. So that's this thing, and which reduces the signal strength of decoy missiles and reduces remote guidance error from jamming. These missiles are easily distracted. So if you have any kind of thing, like any kind of distraction stick, let's just do this quickly. I can show you. Is there a refill? Nope, there isn't. But I suppose I can go over here and have some kind of godly thing. Spectre. I think the Spectre has sufficient. Let's just turn that on. So you see there, a lot of those missiles are now getting pulled. In fact, almost all of them are getting pulled. And they just don't have signal processors on them. A few of them have got through, just through amount of spam and RNG. But yeah, this thing does not do well against anything that has decent decoys. Just getting pulled non-stop. And this doesn't have torpedoes, so that is a little bit awkward for dealing with submarines. It's not a huge problem. This thing actually can engage submarines fairly easily, just because the shells are so fast, but it's not optimized for that. So if I spawn in... where is a submarine? Let's spawn in a Wolin. Spawn in a Wolin like so. So the Wolin is gonna dive. And let's see here. So no super cav means that the shells don't do a hell of a lot, but they are reaching it. So submarines aren't untouchable, yeah, they work a lot better. So you can see this thing is very confused, and a lot of the shells are just bouncing straight off the water. So, and a lot of shells are missing now. Let's go see here. See, lots of those shells are just falling short. Some of them are scratching the paint, but yeah, this thing is not super good against submarines. It can damage them, but it's not very good at it. And this has no missile defense. You'll notice this thing's AI dead now, and that's because the Wolin has killed it. So if you do this, and you will see here that there is absolutely no missile defense on here. Whatsoever. So there's no decoys, there's no transmitter, there's no flares, there's no lambs, there's no Seawiz. You could probably turn these guns to pull double duty as Seawiz fairly easily, but that's not really what's happened here. So yeah, this thing is ironically very vulnerable to missiles itself, because it has no missile defense whatsoever. And torpedoes with signal processors will just ignore the decoy and just flatten this thing. What else? So it is quite dense, so this thing has a fair amount of armor. Not spectacular, but it's got it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of armor. There's a little bit of... oh dear. 2 meter heavy armor beam span. Ooh. Ooh. That's a lot of 2 meter beams, which aren't necessary, because 4 meter beams are better in every single way. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so it's got reasonably thick armor, and oh my lord, I didn't see that's a lot of metal blocks. Artificially raised block count. Blurg. Or maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's intended to fool AI that's aiming for clusters of blocks. Or maybe not, I don't know, there's no way of telling. Jang, tell us your secrets, please. So anyway, this thing is quite dense. There's a lot of heavy armor on the sides, and so it needs roll props. It's got a lot of engines too, which are down here in the lower hull. What engines are these? These are turbocharger engines. Yay! And it needs these roll props. You can see that they're constantly busy trying to keep this thing afloat, and if you I don't know, if you disable these roll props, if you delete these things, this thing has a habit of rolling over. You can see, yeah, she's already kind of pitching over a little bit. And if you do this, let's see what happens. Yep, she's Tokyo drifting. She's rolling. What? Yeah, so she kind of needs those. What do you mean I reached the end of the undo list? Oh, magic. So yeah, if you take out this thing's engines or the roll props, she's gonna roll over and die. So that's a problem. And last but not least, vulnerable ammo compartments. This thing tends to get its face blown off because if you find the ammo compartments, of which there are 3, I believe, they're all there in the front. Okay, so look at this, ammo 2x2, and there's a metal beam to the back. Okay, metal, heavy armor. Uh-oh. So this is something I've said many times before in the past. It's like, if you're going to have a compartment protected by heavy armor, do be sure to do a full wrap of it, because you get problems if you don't. In this particular case, there is a shortcut to blowing up the ammo, and that's by just blowing up the metal beams around it. So it's got heavy armor on the sides, heavy armor on the bottom, heavy armor on the front, not on the back. So there is a almost straight line down from the deck, actually, for especially like big high explosives, to just blow a hole straight down to the ammo compartment, and then you've got a horrible time. And this one here in the front is even worse, because there's just one layer of alloy in between this ammo and the big, cruel, cold outside world. A torpedo in particular will blow this up no problem. And up here on the deck, this might be a building error, actually. There's an air gap here, and then there's a metal beam, and then here we have a bunch of important squishy stuff that you don't want blown up. And you have a hollow gap, and then just a single layer of metal, pretty much. So this is a very poorly defended ammo compartment. In fact, when testing this against, let's show you what I was on about. I was testing against the Deepwater Guard thing, the Ransack, and this. Let's see if it does it again. The Ransack actually managed to explode that forward ammo compartment instantly. Looks like it's not going to manage it now. But yeah, big high explosives tend to do a number on this thing simply because it's got not very good armoring in a lot of areas. Something blew up over there. Oh wow, it's doing so much better now. But yeah, this is kind of weirdly a glass cannon despite all the heavy armor on it. Actually, there's a better way of demonstrating this. Let's just repair all. Now don't move. So if I have a 10,000 point explosion, and if I go right there, and if I go right there, and there, so I guess one 30k explosion would do the trick. Let's try that again. Let's go 20,000, so that's a decently big cramshell. Ooh, you survived that one. But 2 of them in the same point? Yeah, nah. Instant. And that's not good enough. And just to show you the difference it makes when you just put some heavy armor in the right spot. Let's go, where is it? Let's see how many that takes. That's 3. There we go. That was like, I lost count, 6? So that's the difference just 3 beams of metal armor can have. So I think that's a building error. That does not seem like it would be intentional. But yeah, so forward ammo compartment, very vulnerable. So how do you survive this thing? Well, the trick is with armoring, the main problem you've got is the sabot APS guns. Because if you have decoys, like I said, the missiles aren't really going to give you much of a problem. So how do you survive sabot rounds? So let's hop over here and have a look at this. So 36mm. AP is very high, but kinetic damage is very low. So the trick with surviving very high AP shells like this is have thick armor, not strong armor. And what I mean by that is the concept that you have one layer of heavy armor, so that's a health of 6,000. Forget about armor, it's not worth it. But that's 100, so instead of that, you have something like stone. Stone has, we could put 10 of those down. 10 times that has 12,000 health, twice as much health. And immediately you've got a kind of armor setup that is much better at resisting kinetics. So I believe I mentioned this in my armor tutorials that I've made. But yeah, so with shells like this, armor thickness and the health of your armor, the total health of a section is more important than how much AP it has. Don't skimp on AP though, because AC armor class, because like you do need it to resist frag and stuff like that. And furthermore, what you can do is that you can use wedges and poles. So wedges and slopes and poles take reduced kinetic damage. So if you have an armor scheme something like this, so remember armor stacking only works up to 2 layers, so alternating 2 layers stacked and 2 layers pole, like that, you've got something that's really quite kinetic resistant. This is very thick. I forget the exact numbers, but any kind of curve or slope does take reduced kinetic damage, and wedges are the best. So these things, they are the best because the angle is so steep. But poles are kind of more convenient because almost 360 around, they reduce kinetic damage, and then you don't have to worry about the orientation of the thing that much. And slopes are alright, particularly if you're sticking them just on your deck, for instance. So thick armor, use slopes. You can use angled shield projectors. So you'll notice, let's go back here, let's find that shield projector. Shield concept, that. You'll notice that the Scourge actually is a kind of a good example of this. These shields are angled. And so, as you can find on the shield projector itself, is reflecting, blah, 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 doesn't actually say in here, that's very annoying. But the steeper the angle of the shield, the greater the chance that it will deflect whatever's coming at it. So, very steep angles bounce more shells, and as you can see with these shield projectors, the minimum chance is 20%, but you can almost double that when the shot is almost parallel to the shield. Oh, it does say that. That's very convenient. And yeah, so if you use shields like this, and they don't need to be incredibly strong, they just need to be strong enough to reduce the total amount of damage that the sabot will inflict on you, you'll survive it a little bit better. And like I said before, use strong missile decoys, plus interceptors, lambs, and seaways. Because if you do, the missiles aren't going to touch you. The Spectre already kind of demonstrated that. And you can hide deep underwater, or in the case of the Wolin, just keep your distance and the shells won't really reach you. And you can move fast and erratically. So let's actually turn these shields back over here, and let's go here, and let's go here, and go to all, and things that move very fast tend to resist they tend to resist things like sabot spam. Let's see, how fast does this move? We want faster. Top speed, I want faster. I want faster stuff. Oh, this'll do it. this was actually a horrible example because this damn thing flies in a straight line. Actually, that was a perfectly good example because it just blew the turrets up, like both of them at once. If I do that now, let's see, are any of these shells gonna hit anything? That was actually a terrible example. Need a better example. Grey Talons, where are you? Nimbus, Ascension, Goshawk. There we go, the Aquila. And you do that and do that. And I'm just going to refill the APS shells. Once this thing, yep, there you see now, a lot of shells are missing because this thing trundles along at a max speed about 60 meters per second and it bounces up and down a bit. This wasn't a very good example either. Actually, wow, that does help. That helps a lot. So just keeping your distance and moving erratically can immediately, like, I think that's something like 2/3 of the shells are now not doing anything. That's impressive. What else, what else? Well, okay, how do you kill it? Well, I've already given you some examples of that. Lasers don't work particularly well unless you get rid of the shields. But pretty much anything else does the trick. If it damages metal, it'll probably work. So if we do that... What can we make work here? What we can make work here is big alpha strikes. So if I spawn in something, I don't know, like the Spectre. Where is our hard thing? The Spectre, which is actually slightly cheaper than the Scourge. You see that honking big missile barrage? And the decoys are fine. Spectre is actually an excellent example of what to do here. Whoop, the gun survived. And now the superstructure is gone. And the torpedoes have come in. So right there, what happened here? We've blown up most of that. Our own ship. And you can see just like the missiles aren't... Like, the Scourge can't really do anything against missiles at all. The Spectre's only 2% health. Actually, let's see here. The Spectre is 259,000, 260,000. Scourge is, okay, slightly cheaper. But this is a pretty good example of how to kill it. Yep, there goes a turret. And, by the way, exposed mantlets on the gun. So, exposed mantlets, even though mantlets are very tough. So, let's go here. Let's see the AM mantlet. 3,000 health, 50 armor is nothing to be sneezed at. But covering your mantlets is a very good idea, because if you can see them, you can blow them up. So once the mantlets are gone, this thing can't fire, it can't shoot at you. And what you can do is, let's do this, and I'm going to go... Why did I bother doing that? I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to pause the game, I'm going to spawn the Scourge over here. And I'm going to spawn in one of my ships. What was my ship that could manage this thing? I think it was the Varanus. I think it was the Varanus, actually. So big guns help. And the Varanus is armed with EMP hash, so... Heat and hash is very good because... Well, for one thing, it just straight up decapitates the turret completely. But also, it reaches in here, past these layers of armor, and destroys, well, right here. It destroys surge protectors, it destroys the shields, and makes the whole thing a lot more vulnerable. And, ooh, there's fun compartments in here. And once you break this compartment, I just noticed the helium pump, this thing doesn't float very well. So yeah, that's basically it. Is The Scourge is an interesting ship to talk about because it's got very strong strengths, but also very big weaknesses. So it's fun to talk about, it's fun to examine. There are a few kind of building errors in it, I guess. Like I said, not gonna hold that against Jang, because who knows when this thing was first made. But yeah, that's the Scourge. How to kill it. It's pretty good, actually. So, oh my god. Well, that was stupid. Oh boy. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this Most Wanted. The short version, this thing spams APS and missiles. If you survive APS and missiles, you will survive. And then it has actually not really very good defenses on its own, so just shoot at it a lot with missiles, and you will win. You will win the day, and it will be fan-dabby-dozy. So, on that merry note, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon or YouTube membership if you like. It really helps, and there's fun perks in it for you. Thank you to all my current supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Most Wanted. Farewell.